Hi everyone, welcome to psycholinguistics class. Today I'm going to discuss again about the first words that children utter, and also what kind of characteristics there is for English-speaking children's first words. And I'm sharing the slide, and these slides come from the textbook from page 134 and page 147. So overview of today's lecture is I'm going to talk about first words and what children first talk about. We touched upon this topic earlier in the first semester, and sorry, it could be a little bit more repetitive, but I'm going to talk about how they start their first words. And the next topic I'm going to talk about is about errors that children make when they first learn their words. In the previous lecture last week, I talked about noun biases, verb biases, and I shared with you that the fact that a lot of biases help children acquire their first words, the meaning of first words. However, children still make mistakes. And I want to talk a little bit about their mistakes, which I call overextension and underextension. And I also talk about how they start collecting a lot of vocabulary. And I want to talk about the spurt that they go through and the rate of word learning, and first and slow mapping. So the next slide talks about children's first words. So last semester I asked you what your first words are, and similarly, English children talk about similar things to Japanese children when they first uttering their first words. I'm going to now talk about when, like at which point of the development they emerge and what they sound like. This is something very interesting about their phonology and what children mainly talk about. So this graph shows you when children's first words emerge. The x-axis is about the time, the month. So the first 0.8 and 1 represents the time when children are 8 months old and 1 year old. And the next column is between 1 year old and 1 year and 2 months. And in that way, there is a number of children that's showing of when they first started speaking. And children normally start producing their first words around the age of 10 months. But there's a great variability. Some people start talking really, really early, and some don't speak until they're 2 or sometimes 3. But generally, it's understood that boys are slow developers than the girls in terms of speaking. And there is also great evidence that children don't necessarily get everything right from the beginning, and they start making a lot of mistakes. But looking at their errors, we learn a lot about what's going on in their mind. So we are going to talk about that in this slide. However, the most important thing here is that it's always the case that comprehension precedes production. So it's written here. So comprehension in Japanese is rikai, and production means seisan. So children understand a lot more than they can speak. So they know a lot more. They understand what you're telling them. They understand that you're asking them questions. They understand what's going on. But in the beginning, they produce very little. So 何人でも理解がまず初めに来て、それから生産、それから喋り始めるっていうのが 普通の子供の発達になります。Okay, so let us first look at what their first words sound like. So this is about their pronunciation. And typically, children have a hard time in pronouncing so-called consonant clusters. So you now know what clusters are. It's a timely, word that we worry a lot about clusters in the world. Something like when we talk about COVID-19, we say here's a cluster, here's a cluster. But cluster just generally means katamari. And here I'm talking about consonant clusters. So shin no katamari. And these consonant clusters are difficult for babies or toddlers to pronounce. So let us look at examples. So here there's a word spill, and you see two consonants S and P in the beginning. Similarly, snake, school. They all have consonant clusters, and children simplify these consonants by simply just dropping the first sound. So spill would be pronounced as pill, and snake as snake, and school as school. So they simplify complex sequences of sounds so that it's easier for them to pronounce them. And the next characteristics we see is also about consonants. And those are about fricatives and affricates. Maybe you remember from your introduction to linguistics class, fricatives are, I think, masatsuon, where you use your mouth or lips or tongue, and you make a masatsu no oto like sh. So here S, sh, z, j, th, or the. Those are fricatives, called fricatives or affricates. And they are very, very difficult for children to pronounce or to produce. And that's common, it's universally observed. Even Ikura-chan finds it's very difficult to say su. So he would say shu or chu. So sashisu seso, or these are very difficult words for children to pronounce. And in the examples I'm going to show you today, those sounds are replaced by stops, hesan. So like p, t, k, b, d, g. But it's not the case that you can just replace it to any sounds or any stops. So let's look at the example here. Sean is my oldest son. When he was 2 years old, he used to say like that for like that. So it's like that. He would say like that. And what's interesting about this is that, I'm sorry, I forgot to say, but liquids, L and R's are also difficult for children. And they replace liquid sounds, L's and R's, with nasal being beyond. So instead of L と R は日本人だけではなく、どんな人にも、どんな子供にとっても難しい音で、L とか R をリクイッドサウンドって言うんですけど、そのリクイッドは、ネイゾ、鼻から出す N とか M からで置き換えられます。And N and M are quite easy to pronounce for babies because they practice very early on. こうミルクを吸いながら、吸ってる時でも鼻から息が出しながら音とか、んとか、んとか結構早くから出る音なんですけど、L とか R は N、M などに置き換えられます。Then let's go back to the example, like that. So like is now pronounced as like. So L が N になってます。 で、これはさっきも言ってた L と R は難しいから。で、L が N になってるっていうのがもっと面白くって、なんで面白いかっていうと、N も L も両方ともラララ、この歯の後ろのアルビューラーって呼ばれるところを使って発音しています。So, L and N, you both notice when you say L or N, you touch the same part in your mouth. なので、全く違う音を持ってきて、勝手にこれ L 言われへんから M 言おうかとか、R 難しいから V 使おうとか、勝手にそのコンビネーションを作ってるんじゃなくて、同じ場所、あるいは比較的近い場所で発音されている。けれども自分にとって発音しやすい音っていうのに置き換えられているというのがすごく面白いですよね。で、that も that になっています。これは日本人はよくやりますよね。this を this と言ったり、that を that って言ったり。で、th っていうのは割とこうあまり多くの言語には見られない音ですし、不安定な音なんですよね。だからロンドンなまりとかでも th がなくなってしまうような th が違う音に、変えられるなまりっていうのがあって、コクニーとかもそうですけど、数が F に置き換えられたりするような言語というか方言は見られます。で、子供の言語でも th は難しくって、この場合 that の the は有声音の the で、dental sound なんですけど、これがもう一個の、もうちょっと発音しやすい、閉鎖音の d, the. Again, d is a voiced sound. で、the が do に置き換えられて like that っていう風な発音をよくしていました。That's also quite a popular mistake that English-speaking children make. Also, second language learners sometimes make such mistakes. Or, we have a hard time pronouncing L's and R's and TH. So we might replace them. We might use other sounds in order to compensate for the fact that we cannot pronounce certain sounds. And another example is consonant harmony. これは、子音が調和してしまうという話なんですけど、同化してしまう、同じ音を使ってしまうっていうような意味なんですけど、例えば duck。で、duck を間違ってガック。これはすっごいよく言います。イギリス人の子供も Look at the gack っていうふうによく言うのを聞きます。で、duck の do がくにちょっと同化されてしまって調和して D が G になってしまう。これも D is a voiced sound で、その有声音っていうのはそのまま持ったまま場所がクっていう後ろに行くのでグっていうのが出てガックっていう風になります。で、これがすごい面白いのは後ろから空から影響を受けている、後ろから前に影響が受かっているっていうのはすごい面白くって、みんな前から喋ってる、発音も前から読んでいる、左から前から読んでいるっていうふうに思うんだけど、頭の中ではもうダックって言おうって思っていて、そのダックの多分リプレゼンテーションが頭にあるんですよね。その空が前のD に影響を与えてきているっていうので、アンティシペーション、予期しながら反対に後ろから前に影響を与えてくるのをアンティシパトリーと言います。で、アンティシパトリー、replacement or consonant harmony is happening. Also, you can see another influence going from forward, left to right. So cat, instead of saying cat, they say cat. So here, くが後ろの空に影響を与えています。なので両方に、so it's sometimes from back to front, sometimes front to back. These consonant harmonies happen. So here again, you notice that certain consonants are very difficult for babies. And children hardly ever make mistakes with vowels. It's usually consonants that are difficult. And maybe that's also true for second language learners. Yeah, 普通の語語の名詞じゃない、母音、あいうえお。それはちょっとほとんど定着していて簡単で言いやすいし、そこの辺はあんまりエラーが見られないのではないかと思います。And the third type of errors they make is called syllable reduction. So シラブルが短くなってくる。で、スパゲティみたいな長いスパゲティっていうようなシラブが4つとか3つとか4つとか5つとかってあるような長い名詞動詞でもそうなんですけど、それが it gets chopped off. So spaghetti would become getty, or banana will become nana, and crocodile will become crocodile. So in that way, syllables are reduced and the words are shortened. And what's interesting is that so spaghetti has a stress on getty. So you maintain that stress. So the parts that don't get stressed will be dropped off. So spaghetti will become getty, and banana will become nana, and crocodile will be crocodile っていう感じで、ストレスがかかっている部分のみ子供が聞いて、で、いらないとこをちょっと省いてしまうっていうようなことがよく起こります。And today I'm going to show you this video, and I'm going to ask you for the next week, think about this boy's pronunciation and think about how different his pronunciations are from his mother or usual adults. I'm going to videotape this later but before let me talk about this slide first. So this slide is talking about FLA, that's first language acquisition, and SLA, second language acquisition. So second language learners like us, so we have Japanese as a first language, we are learning English as a second language. And when you look at these mistakes that children make, I said, 第二言語学者でも TH は難しいですねとか、TH をth を s とか the を the とかって置き換えますねって言いましたけども、この子供の犯すエラーを見てみると、第二言語習得の人が使うようなエラーもあるし、例えばバナナとかこういう syllable reduction is not really seen in second language learners. で、多分 I think this syllable reduction happens partly because it's very difficult for children to pronounce these words, but also partly because that they have some memory capacity. 多分その音をすべて記憶に入れてもう一回再生するっていうか生産するっていうのは子どもにとって記憶力があまり発達していない子どもにとっては難しいことだと思うんですよね。で、そういう時に多分覚えてる部分だけこう印象に残った部分、ストレスがかかっていて、矯正がかかっていて、覚えてる部分だけ記憶に入って、それをもう一回自分で発音することができる。で、その場合ね、second language learners like us, we have a full-fledged, well-developed memory ability. そう、記憶力がもう発達しているので、スパゲッティも全部記憶して、そのままスパゲッティって言える。バナナも難しくない。バナナっていうふうにリプロダクションできるんですよね。なので、こういうシラボルリダクションのようなスピーチエラーは子供には起こる。 多分認知的な制限があるから。けれども、セカンドラングエージにとってはあまり犯すようなエラーではないっていうので、ここにあるように、second language learners also make some, but not all of these simplifications っていうふうになります。で、一応このスライドは次に男の子の、発話をちょっとここで皆さんに紹介したいのでそれで一応終わろうと思っています。このスライド自体はね。でこれを次今出てくる20ヶ月のアメリカ人の男の子がお母さんといろんな名詞トイズとか食べ物について話をしているので、それをちょっと聞いて、で今習ったsyllable reductionとかこういう音は難しいとかっていうのを考えながら、この男の子の発話をちょっと次の週にみんなでディスカッションしたいので用意してほしいんですけど、どこがおかしいとか、This is really typical of the children みたいな、and he's not pronouncing these words correctly そういうのがあったらメモにとって、来週のために、用意しておいてください。じゃあ Let's play this one. Let's listen to
That's your choo-choo train? And what are these called? Train tracks?
Train tracks.
Very good. And can you say Christmas lights? Oh, very good. And what about, can you say motorcycle?
Cars.
Good. And can you say motorhome?
Home.
Oh, that's good. Can you say dog?
Doggy.
Very good. You're getting very good at saying that. And what about, what else?
Garbage truck.
Garbage truck. I knew you'd want to say that one.
Garbage truck.
Can you say fire truck?
Garbage truck.
Yes. And what about Santa Claus? Can you say Santa Claus?
Car.
Very good.
Car.
Yeah, Santa Claus brought you this train set, didn't he? Santa Claus brought that train too? And what color is that train?
Green.
Very good.
Car.
A train car, huh? It's an engine, huh? A train engine.
Go.
It goes?
Rain.
Oh, yeah, it went.
Puppy.
There's your passy. And what was the other thing? Your toast. Where's your toast?
Go.
Good. And do you have pear there too? Pear and oranges and grapes. All for breakfast. Yummy. Can you say bye-bye to the camera? Or do you have too much to eat?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so you can watch this again and again if necessary. I'm grateful if you could prepare what you heard in this boy's speech and what was different from adults' pronunciation. So in the next slide I'm going to make, in the video, I'm going to talk about more of a semantic mistakes that children make, which is about overextension and underextension. Okay, so see you soon.